Okay. So last time the exercise was you have a rectangle class. Okay, and you have a constructor which takes height and width. Right, and you have target area. This is width and height, and then in the main function I told we'll create 3 rectangles, for example. You can create as many, but we'll just create 3 for now. 2, 3, 4. One more rectangle. So like this, and I asked you to implement a static function. Which is asking for get max area, which will return some static variable. Max area. Right? Okay, this was the problem, right? Is everyone with me? So the problem was I have a rectangle class and I create as many rectangles as I want, and when I say rectangle get max area, which is the static function, it should give me the rectangle with the maximum area or the maximum area that was created. So we know that a static variable is common to all classes and it resides outside the object and it will not get destroyed until the process exits. So we know that whenever an object is getting created, we are creating inside the constructor gets called. So what we can do is max area is less than get area, we can say max area equal to get area. So what this will do, every time we create a rectangle, say in this case, the first time the value of max area will be 0 because it's a static variable, it will be initialized to 0. And when you create the first rectangle 2, 3, it will check whether max area is less than get area. Max area is 0, get area will be 2 into 3, that is 6. So now max area will be set to 6. And next, the rectangle 2, 3, 4 is called. So it will come here, max area is a static variable, so the value does not get destroyed even if you create a new object and is external to the object. So max area is now 6, right? And the get area will return you 12. Now max area will be set to 12. So similarly 4, 4, 4, 5. So here the maximum value is 4, 5. Just to kind of test our correctness of the thing, we will just give 1, 1, just to make sure this is not set. So when we run this, what do you think will be the output? Anyone?
Are we allowed to use that logical function inside the constructor? Because I was thinking we have to do only in main function.
You can do, because constructor is also another function, right? You can do whatever you want there.
That's the confusion where we.
Okay. Okay. Fine. So now you are getting what where we are getting at.
Now it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can declare some logical functions inside the constructor.
Yes. Because I mean it's just a function. You can execute whatever you want inside. But when you enter here, the values are not set, is not initialized in a constructor. But if any other function, because the constructor gets called first, so these values are not set. So that's why I'm setting the value first and then calling get area. I could have instead of get area I could have done w start h here. So just let's run it and make sure we are correct.
I have one more doubt. When we are declaring the max area and the constructor,
You mean the max area variable? Okay, we need to define the value outside. Yeah, so that was done. You can initialize it if you want. I can do it. So was that your question? Was that the question, Raghuttama? Hello? I can't hear. Can you still hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, Raghuttaman was asking a question and I think I can't hear him now.
Actually, there are three in call. That is me, myself, yourself, and Mahalakshmi ji.
Oh, he's not there in the call now?
No, because sir, it is actually something like when we start writing the code, for some few 5 to 10 minutes it will work. Then later on we cannot see anything what you are writing. So that's why maybe he has logged off, or maybe he'll join the call.
Okay. So does that what happens to everyone or for only few people?
Actually, I find it happens every time with me. Just now I went out and I came in. That time you had written some part of code, and later on you were explaining something. Your mouse went near the scroll bar, and then later on no action in the screen. That is why.
Okay, I don't know.
That could be the reason that he has gone out of the call. Not very sure.
Okay, let's wait. So are you able to see the screen now?
Screen is very clear, sir. Screen you can see and you can read also what is written, but rewrite the, if you just move on the screen, you can only see the screen as still. I don't know, I don't think it is a problem with our bandwidth.
Okay.
Because ISG also used to share screens with us while taking classes.
Okay.
Also, it was fine when he was taking with the slides, but then when it comes to simulator, I don't know if there is some problem with that. I don't know.
Okay. I don't know. Let me stop and start the screen share again. Let's see if it works. Are you able to see the screen now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can see.
Okay. So in the code, all I have done is in the constructor, I'm just the max area is initialized to 0 initially. So whenever the constructor is called, I am checking if max area is less than the get area. The get area will return the area of the current object when it is getting created, and then if it is greater, then I am setting the max area to that one. So what will happen is when the first one, rectangle one, is created, 0, the max area will be set to 6. Second time 6 is less than 12, it will be set to 12. And that is less than 16, it will be set to 16. Next it will be set to 20. And in the fifth case, it is greater than 1, so 20 will remain. So yeah, so the output shows 20. So this is what was the exercise, but looks like Raghautamanji told that in the rectangle, he did not know that he can write conditions within the constructor. So my answer to that is the constructor is just another function. The only difference between the constructor function and the other function is the constructor will get called immediately after the object is created. So you have to make sure the values are initialized before you start using the variables. So this was the last exercise. So any questions regarding the last exercise? Okay, so I want to move on to the next topic, but I want to see if Raghautamanji can join the call. Can somebody check?
There was a network problem.
Oh, you're back? Okay, good. So we just discussed the previous exercise, and I just wanted to execute, and then we saw the value as 20 as expected. So since you had already understood, I think you're fine with this, right?
No, I have one question here.
Yes.
The get area, the above in the constructor part, we are asking to calculate the get area, right?
Yes.
Sorry, max area.
Yes.
We go up. Here we are mentioning below the variables, we are mentioning logic function max area is less than get area, like that.
Yes.
So this max area, first it will take 0 because static int is not inside.
Yes.
So it will take as 0, right?
Yes.
And it will calculate area, and then it will. And then why it will come again to this one, because there is no loop here, right? That's my doubt.
No, that's because you're creating another object, right? Whenever you create an object, the constructor for that object will be called.
Several objects will work as a loop only.
Yeah, it's not a loop, but every time you create an object, a constructor for that object will be called. And in the constructor you can initialize the values, because these width and height, these are member variables. These are non-static member variables, so every object will have its own copy of width and height, right? For example, rect1 dot width and height is different from rect2 dot width and height. So every object needs to call its own constructor so that value is initialized. Okay, yeah. So the constructor will be called whenever an object gets initialized, and destructor will be called whenever an object gets out of scope or gets deleted. So it is per object, not just once, because every object needs initialization, right? Based on its own attributes and whatever. So is that clear to everybody else also?
Yes, sir.
Okay, one more thing, we are using the double semicolon symbol here. Rectangle and double semicolon, and then we get max area.
Yes, this one. Yes, this is how we call the static functions. Because the getMax area is not bound to any object here, right? Because static functions and static variables are not bound to the particular object. They are like global, and they don't have access.
Static function or static variable, we have to use double semicolon.
Yes, because it is static, you can use double colon. Because getMax area is not bound to any object. It is just a scope. You are specifying the scope of getMax area. That is, getMax area is defined in rectangle. You are just specifying the scope. That's all. It's a way of encapsulating the function. You could have very well done this one, right? Instead of defining it here, you could have very well done this here, static, or I could have said int max area. And then I could have put this outside the function, outside the class. And I could have done this. It would have still given you the same thing. Right? If I do this, it would still do the same thing, because here max area is a global variable, and then you can use global variable inside any function. There is only one variable. So every time you call the constructor, you check the global variable value and then set the value to the maximum area. And then there is a function, global function, which will just return you the max area. So this will again do the same thing. There is no difference. But the reason why we encapsulate or create static variable, static function, is because as we told, we want to encapsulate things. We want to say, when you say object oriented, we only all the variables depending on or which are part of that object has to be within that class. Having global variables and global functions is not a very good scalable design. So we should never have global variables and global functions. We should always create classes and then encapsulate the variables within. If you want it to be global, make it static member of the class, which is only used by that class. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Also, we are indicating the rectangle max area is equal to 0 above the main function. So we need to initiate that one, because already
if I keep it to 0, because it's a static variable, it will be initialized to 0 anyway. So I just put it 0 to be explicit. If somebody who reads it, he need not get confused what it will be initialized to.
If you not initialize it, you will get a 0 automatically.
Yes. It's always a good practice to initialize, because it's more readable. So somebody need not wonder what will the compiler initialize to. If you set it to 0, then it is very readable and it's clear.
one above main function we are using namespace std, but we used to use in the top only from before class.
Yeah, you can put it there, because here I'm not using any of the namespace methods inside the class rectangle, so I just put it down. Yeah, you can put it up.
Is it okay if we don't put also before the class?
Yeah, it's fine. You can even put it inside the main function. I can even put it inside the main function, it will just work. And this will be only work inside the function. Outside the function, you need to define your own namespace. Yeah, this will work. So, shall we move to the next topic?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the next topic is I want to cover friend functions and friend classes. So we told that initially we have discussed about two scopes, scope accessor. One is a private and public. When we say private, it means it is only those members are only visible to the class functions within the class. And when you say public, it is visible for anybody else using the class. So now we will introduce a concept called friend, where that friend will have visibility to the private variables. For example, the way we declare friend is I can say friend, and I can define so what we want to do is we want to implement a function first. It will just return. I want to double it will return a rectangle, double, and the function name is double, which will take the rectangle as input. The goal is that it returns a rectangle which is double the width and double the height. So it's actually 4 times. So here double the width and height. So now I have a function where I take a rectangle as input, and I want to just double the width and height, and then return a new rectangle. So how do I do it? Because I cannot have access to the width and height, and I don't have set area here, so I cannot even set width and height. So in that case, how do I do it? So the person who implements the class rectangle, he can say, I call a friend function whose signature is this. Right. So here I'm declaring a friend for this class, and whose signature is double, and takes input double and returns the rectangle. It takes input rectangle and returns the rectangle. So inside this function, because this is a friend of that class, I can create a rectangle whose width will be rectangle. Okay, to show how the friend works, I created a rectangle. So let me just add a default constructor. I can even access individual. Okay, here I'll call this rect_new. Rect_new dot. Here now you can see I am able to access the private variable. So I can individually set the width and height. So this way, this function has access to the internal variable, so I can do some more additional tasks which other functions cannot do. For example, in main, I can say double of rect1. So I can create another rectangle which is having double the width and double the height of this rectangle. So even though the main function doesn't have the ability to access, but there is a function which has access, so I can call that function to do whatever I want. So, but main function cannot access the internal variable again, because it only access to the public variables or methods. So is the friend function concept here? Any questions?
There is different rectangle double, inside there is a rectangle rect, right? What is the rect is not in place, or rect is what is the because we see rect1, rect2, rect3 only.
No, this is input parameter, right? This is the argument. Just like any function. Yeah, just like any function, foo integer I, right? I'm taking the input. Right, and I'm returning integer. Right? Here I is the input variable. So like that, rectangle here is the input variable. So here, and the rectangle is also a type, just like integer. But it's more complex type. It's like it has so many other things attached to it. Just like a structure is more advanced than regular types, like that. And it is also returning another rectangle. So we created another rectangle and then we returned it. Any questions about the friend functions? So I want to proceed to friend classes. It's similar to a friend function but we are giving access to the private members to another class instead of a function. So here I can say I have another class called square. It has which has a constructor, and then we get area thing. So suppose I want to convert this square into a rectangle, right? So because square is also a rectangle, right? So I want to convert the square into a rectangle. So I can have a function called convert to rectangle. Right. So here I can create a rectangle and but I want to set the width and height, but I don't have access to width and height. So what I will do is I'll make this as a friend. The way to define a friend class is you have to say friend class square. So here we are saying that square is a friend class of rectangle, so it will have access to the private members. So here now we can see I will be able to access the private variables. So rectangle is a special kind of the square is a special rectangle where height and width is same as its sides. And then it will return. So in the main function, say I define a square with side 4. If I want to convert into a rectangle, I can just say s dot convert to rectangle. So now I have access to I have created a rectangle which has the same area as a square. So now I can use this object as a rectangle, R as a rectangle and S as a square. So that way you can define the friend classes where the friend class will have access to the private variable. Any questions? So here I have defined a friend class which is a square, and this class will have access to the private variables or private functions. So many times it might so happen that while developing people want to share code, or you might want to divide the work into two, and two people need to have access to the internals of one another. Then you can make it friends, and then so you can start using the private variable without having to kind of implement some workarounds which is elaborate and things like that. So it's more reusable, and then you can kind of modularize the development and share the code with each other. So is the concept clear?
Friend, just only the word friend means inside the class, same class we can share the variables, right? If the variables are functions. If it is a friend class means class to class we can share them.
That's correct. Whoever has defined the friend class, you can define. But it's not the other way around. Like it's not like if I create a square here and s dot, you cannot access private variable of this one unless you define square as a friend of rectangle. You only define square is friend of rectangle, but not the other way around. So if you want to have access, you can define that also. Yeah, friend class rectangle. Then square will also rectangle will also have the internal visibility to square. So is everybody else also clear with the friend class and functions?
Sir, I think I'll have to see the video. Then I can tell you.
Oh, I don't know why it is happening like that. Okay. Okay, so Mahalakshmi and Parimala, are you fine?
Yes, sir. I will go through the code once again, and if any doubts, I'll ask in the next class. I will try to work it out and
Okay. Okay, now I want to move to an important topic called operator overloading. So what this operator overloading will do is it will give you ability to we have the operators. What are the operators like plus, minus, divided by percentage star plus 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 equal to minus 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 equal to, or we have curly braces or the square braces. These are all the operators a variable can have. For example, you can say 2 star 3 or 2 plus 3, or you can say 3 percentage 2 or I plus plus, or if it is an array we can say array of 10 or things like this. These are all what we call as operator, the square braces, and these are all called operators. So what C++ does is it will give you the ability to define an operator by overloading the operator for your class. For example, say I have a class called time, right? So what does the time have? It has hours and it has minutes, right? So for example, we'll create a constructor time which will take hours and minutes, and then it will just initialize hours and minutes, right? And we will create another function called show time, which will show the time as hours and minutes. Hours minutes. Right? So the way we can use this, okay, I think okay, that's because the square has been defined above, so that's why it's not well defined. So we'll define a class called time. So a time has hours and minutes, and we'll define a constructor time it will take. Hours and minutes, and we can set the hours and minutes. So, and then we'll have a function called showtime, so which will print the time. In a proper formatted way. Okay. So how do we use it? We create a function called time, which is, say, we'll set to 9 hours 30 minutes, and then say t dot show time. This will show us the time. So it's showing 9:30. So that's a very simple time class, which is having hours and minutes. So this much is clear to everyone what this function is, what this class is doing. Okay, so now what we want to do is, the ability to add time. Say if I have 2 times and I want to give a way so that I want to add both times. Like I want to say t1, like this, there is t, and then I have time t2. So I want to create time t3. There is nothing but t plus t2. So I want to do something like this. So, but this is the t is nothing but a time. So the compiler does not know how to add times because it is our own implementation, right? So what it does is it gives us an ability to overload this plus operator this way. I can say that operator returns time, and operator is plus, and it takes input as time, right? So we have defined the operator. So this will nothing but will take another time t. So that means when you say t plus t2, so this operator is working on object t, and then it is giving input t2 to this function. That's what this means. So it is working on the current this object, and then it is getting the second operator as the input, operand as the input. So in this function what I can do is, first I will say minutes plus equal to t dot minutes. So I'm adding the minutes first. Okay, and then hours plus equal to t dot hours. I'm adding hours and minutes, but it's not as simple, right? Sometimes what happens is when minutes goes over 60, it becomes 1 hour. So we want to build in that logic as well. So what we will do is minutes is equal to minutes. First we will do hours plus equal to minutes divided by 60, and then minutes equal to minutes percentage 60. So you know what is this operator divide by and percentage is doing here?
Quotient.
Yeah.
Supply means the remainder.
Remainder. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to convert, say if the 30 minutes and 40 minutes when you add, you will get 70 minutes. So I want to convert the 70 minutes as 1 hour and 10 minutes. So 70% 60 will give me 10, and 70 divided by 60 will give me 1. So I'm adding that 1 hour to hours, and minutes I'm kind of subtracting that 60 minutes and then just getting that 2. So what this operator is doing is it is taking second operand. The function will be called for the first operand. That is, in this case, it will be called for t, and then we will give input t2, because the operator function that is getting called is plus. And in that one, I can do whatever operation I want. Here, I'm adding minutes and hours, and I'm calculating hours and minutes, recalculating the hours and minutes. So we will test it. Like in this case, say I will add 1 hour 20 minutes. I have one time 9 hours 30 minutes and another time 1 hour 20 minutes, and this t3 is addition of t and t2. So if I just say t dot show time, t2 dot show time, t3 dot show time. Let's see if it builds fine. Okay, so we will not return the new time. Okay, in this case we don't want to add it to the current value because we are not changing the current time. So what we want to do is basically we want to create a new time, and we will give the current object as the input. So I want to show one more thing, like this is one way of creating it. So instead of this, because we don't want to modify the current value, so we want to create a new time and return. So here we don't want to change the value of t, we want to create a new time and then return it. That's what we want here. So that's why I'm changing the logic here. So I'm creating a new object time, and initially it is set to the current time, and then instead of modifying the current time, modifying the new time. And I also return So let's see what is the output. So here you can see initially, oh wait, there's a problem, should be 1050. So we are adding 2 minutes. Let's debug what happens. Why?
I think there is a plus symbol in the
Yeah, let's see. So here we got time, which is 1 hour 20 minutes, and then the current minutes is and the current is 9 hours 30 minutes. So the new T got created with 9 hours 30 minutes. So we are adding 30 and 20. So this will become 50. This is 1 hour and this is 9 hours. So this will become 10 hours 50 minutes. So now what is happening is, okay, this is the problem. So I need to say new T. So simple logical mistake. So I want to kind of whatever is the new minute that we have added, for that I want to do divide by 16%. So yeah, so that's just a logical mistake. So but don't worry about the logic, but I wanted to get the concept of operator overloading. So now you can see 9 hours 30 minutes, 1 hour 20 minutes is added to 10 hours 15 minutes. So that is the operator overloading. So the operator overloading, what was the goal of the object-oriented programming? The object-oriented programming should basically make the code easier to read, write, and it should be as abstract as possible. Like in this case, the abstraction is very clear. Like I don't care what it is, how the time is implemented. I want to just add 2 times. That's all the programmer is trying to say. So say this is all in the library. The time is the library function. So the library function understands plus operator and it does it for the user. User need not care about how the minutes are getting added, how the hours are getting added, those kind of logic he need not care. He will just do T plus T2 and he will get T3. He can be sure that he will get the correct size. And then even show time, he need not care like how it is displayed. He can just call show time and then he need not worry how it is formatted. So in this case we can format it in a better way, but we'll not go into formatting. But I wanted to get the power of using the operator overloading. So when you go into the standard library of the C++, you can see there will be a lot more types that you can use, which is useful. Which one I will demonstrate one of them here. So you can overload the operator so that your code becomes more readable, and then it's more easier for the programmer to use your library functions. So did everyone get the operator overloading concept? Why we use it and how to use it?
Yeah, I got the idea. The thing is that when we call in the main function, we are not referring this time operator.
Yeah, we are just referring to plus. That's all. The operator is a keyword. It is saying that I'm overloading an operator, and this is telling you which operator I'm overloading. And this is telling me what is the right hand side operand, and this is telling me what I'm returning. That is the signature of the operator overloading function. So for example, I can have another, I will show you for example, a string library class. Say I want to get the hour part and minute part separately, right? So I will say string, returns a string operator. I will say I will use the square bracket operator, and then it will take input as in this case I will return integer because I want the hour or minute. So it will take input s string. I'll explain what is string. And here I'll say s equal to hours, return hours. If s equal to minutes, return minutes. Else I'll just return some -1 saying that it's an invalid input. So what I have done is I have overloaded operator square brackets, and within the square bracket whatever you give should be a string. String is nothing but it's a library class which is basically representing an array of characters. I want to see how powerful the class and the operator overloading and all this is making C++ a very powerful language. So here I didn't have to define string. Instead of string I should have defined like char star C, and then in the function I'll have to say compare. I had to write my own way of comparing C with hours, so I have to write another function called compare C with hours, and then do then in the compare function I had to go through every character of C and compare it to HO or S, and then if it all matches then I have to say okay, it matched. So then I have to say it matched. So here you can see I'm directly using the string class, which is from the standard namespace, you can see. And then they have overloaded equal to operator, which is comparing two inputs. Just like I can also overload, I can return bool, and I can overload equal to, and I can in this case take time, and then I can return whether it is it is both are equal or not. I can do that here, right? I can say if hours equal to t dot hours, and then minutes equal to t dot minutes. Return true. Return false. So like this, you can define your own comparator operator. So here you can see in the string they have overloaded equal to operator. So it will return true. It will return true if hours is equal to that input string, and similarly the way it may be. So here if I want to get the hour part of any time, I can say cout t3 of hours. So what this will do is it will just give me the hour part, and then it will print hour part. You can see here it just printed the hour. So that's how powerful the operator overloading can do. So going ahead, you will be using operator overloading without even knowing, because you are using the standard classes like strings or lists, or it could be a stack or a queue. So these are all already implemented by somebody with the standard interfaces and standard operator overloading and everything. So you don't have to implement on everybody. Doesn't, I mean, the best part of any programming language is reusability, or the libraries that it has. Like you don't want to implement simple things like string or lists, linked lists, or queue, stack. These are all standard data structures. So we don't want everybody to solve the same problem. So there, you will be using operator overloading without even knowing, and it is so seamless. You won't even know how it's working underneath. So that gives you the abstraction as well as reusability and easy to read. So all those things you'll see when you use operator overloading. So that's about the operator overloading. I didn't have any exercise in mind because actually I didn't have a plan for this class because I thought that probably people are getting overwhelmed with the previous concept that I had. So I had sent a PDF file to you. Do you have that PDF file? I had sent in the Facebook Messenger.
Book one.
Yeah, book, ebook.
Right.
So you should try to go through that for some of these. You can also play around with the code that I'm going to send and understand operator overloading. I wanted to not just complete exercise, but also I wanted to play around with it and get comfortable with it. Because if you're not comfortable with the class, constructors, static functions, operator overloading, function overloading, these concepts, then it becomes very difficult to understand the higher topics. So I want you to kind of do the exercise problems and also play around with the code a little bit. Try to implement your own objects. Think about the objects that you want. I want you to play around, get used to it, and then then we can move on to the higher topics. So I think the major topic remaining is the inheritance and polymorphism, which is related to object-oriented programming. So after that, I think in 1 or 2 classes we will be done with the object-oriented concepts. So I want you to practice these things on your own. I'll see if I can come up with some exercise for you before the end of the day. I'll post it in the group, and then you people can work on the exercise that I've given. Spend some time. That's the writing more and more code is the only way you can kind of learn this thing. That's the only way you can learn programming. The theoretical knowledge is all fine, but the more you write, the more errors you encounter, the more you debug, the more you learn. So I've seen there were simple errors in the programming code that you posted in the group, which you could have debugged yourself. So I wanted to spend some time debugging the program, like you were using uninitialized variables, and then those kind of simple things. I wanted to kind of I want you to kind of spend some time understanding why it is happening, what could be the mistake. So the best thing of using Visual Studio is you can debug inline. I don't know whether other development environment has the same thing, but it helps me to walk through the function and then see where my logic is going wrong, which I just demonstrated, like how in this case I had kind of adding the minutes and hours incorrectly, so I could figure it out where it's going wrong. So those are very good skills to have as a programmer. Debugging ability is very, very important if you want to kind of work in big projects. So with that, I want to stop the class here. Operator overloading, I know it's a bit of it could be complex for the first time when you see it, but I want you to practice it 1 or 2 times on your own so that you get comfortable with it. So any questions for the operators overloading, we can discuss, but we can also discuss later once you have tried it out and when you have more questions. So you can see the main function has to be very simple. You see the main function is so simple. Everywhere main function should not be more than 2 or 3 lines. When your function gets more than 10-15 lines, you should be thinking whether you need to modularize, create a new function, put it there, things like that. Any questions? Okay, so let's take time understanding these concepts. So spend enough time, play around, I wanted to spend a little bit more time than what you have spent previously in coding, a little bit. Maybe next class I don't want to introduce any new concept, but I want to just hear your questions, or we can practice more of such kind of things based on how we have worked on. And I want to give more time so that you can kind of play around rather than introducing more and more concepts. Does it make sense to everybody?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So I've recorded the session. Sorry for the people who are not able to. I think Krishna Kumar has even left the call. So I'm sorry for people who are not able to view the presentation properly, but hopefully the videos are more clear and then you'll be able to understand. So okay, I'll see you all on Wednesday maybe, and good luck with your exercises. Okay, thank you. Good night.